The Department of Defense says it will have a stronger presence at the U.S. border with Mexico. This comes as the Department of Homeland Security is facing a major shakeup. Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen is leaving the department today. Several other high-level DHS administrators are also stepping down. Customs and Border Protection Commissioner Kevin McAleenan takes over today as acting secretary. A White House official tells CBS News that President Trump believes McAleenan will help implement stronger policies at the border. CBS News national security correspondent David Martin joins me now from the Pentagon. Welcome, David. Great to see you. What do we know about the Pentagon's increased role at the border?
Well, the Department of Homeland Security is asking the Pentagon for more troops to help deal with the situation at the border, which is beyond the ability of the Border Patrol agents that are deployed there to handle. And this additional support would probably add up to several thousand more troops to do things like build tent cities, transport the migrants to these tent cities, distribute food to the migrants, and then whatever other support that Border Patrol agents might need. There are currently about 5,000 U.S. troops deployed to the border, both active duty and reserve. We don't know the details because they haven't been worked out yet of what this latest request would require in terms of numbers of troops. But I think it's very likely that the number of U.S. troops on the border could at least double in the coming weeks and months. I mean, remember last week the Department of Homeland Security basically put out this plea that said that the situation at the border was beyond their ability to control, and they were calling on all the departments in government to pitch in to help. Well, guess what department has the deepest pockets and the biggest manpower pool? It's always the Pentagon, and so they are being called on here to fill all of these perceived gaps in border security.
And David, what about these so-called tent camps that personnel have been asked to help build? Is there concern over the optics of that these might look like internment camps?
Well, that's been the concern since these tent camps were first requested. Now it's been almost 6 months, I think, since the first tent camp was requested by both the Department of Homeland Security and Health and Human Services, because Health and Human Services is responsible for dealing with the unaccompanied minors. And you don't see yet any of those tent cities having been built. The Pentagon has agreed to build them, but nothing's happened yet, and I think it's because nobody wants to really have to do that.
Now, we have learned that contracts have been awarded to build the border wall. This, of course, comes after President Trump said he wants to use money from the Pentagon's budget, as we were talking about, for his national emergency. What can you tell us about these lucrative contracts? How much money is involved, and where precisely is it coming from?
Well, the contracts that have been let so far are two, and they are to build two sections of border wall, one in New Mexico and one in Arizona, and together they will cost about $1 billion. But that is just the wedge. The director, the head of the Army Corps of Engineers, which is the agency that actually awards these contracts, has predicted that by the end of 2020, there will be 450 miles of border wall under construction, a total of 33 projects costing a total of $8 billion, and all of that $8 billion would be coming from the Pentagon budget.
Are there concerns in the Pentagon about that $8 billion being diverted?
Sure. Remember, the Pentagon has a huge budget. It's got a $750 billion budget, so $8 billion is a small fraction of that budget. But remember, 6 months ago, the Pentagon had no interest and no idea that it would be asked to build border walls. And so this is $8 billion that it had planned to spend on something else, but now it's going to have to spend on the wall.
All right. Well, David Martin, we thank you so much for your insight.
Sure thing.